That is so cool.
Hi, this is Angie, and this is my book review for Nowhere Feels Like Home by LK Gardner-Griffie. Nowhere Feels Like Home is the second book in the Misfit in a Cave series, and it takes place immediately following the first book. Throughout this book, Katie is stuck at home with a broken leg, and because of it, the narrative takes an interesting turn between first-person and third-person telling with other people. Normally, I don't like books that switch perspective, but in this case it worked, simply because it was a first-person to third-person switch, and so I got to stay in the main character's mindset and still know the story pieces. There were two things I couldn't decide which was my favorite about the book, so I picked two things. First of all, the emotional range in this book is just kind of awesome. Throughout Nowhere Feels Like Home, the emotional range goes from everything from really sweet romance to kind of steamy romance to heartbreaking sadness to anger and sassiness, and it's really just quite good, I think, because it's geared toward the younger side of young adult, and I think it's important to address all those issues. And speaking of addressed issues, it does not shy away from the talk, and so for any parents out there that might be shying away from having the talk themselves, perhaps Katie's older cousin Sarah could give you a couple hints on that. My other favorite thing about this book was that I fell in absolute love with two of the characters in this book, and I feel as if the very tail end was written kind of just for me because I enjoyed it so much. I don't want to give it too much away, but basically there's a little surprise at the end with a hook that kind of makes me really want to know what's going to happen in the third book because it got a little exciting. Did I just pick two favorites? Yes. If I had to pick one thing that I did not like about the book, and this is being very nitpicky, but I didn't like the coincidental naming. I don't think it was intentional, but Katie's best friend and love interest are named Tim and Tom respectively, and her two older male cousins are named Matt and Mark, and it just got a little confusing at the beginning. Towards the end, Tim and Tom didn't bother me so much because they were different people, they had different things going on, and in my mind they were completely separate personalities, and it didn't bother me whatsoever. Matt and Mark, though, they hang around each other a lot, and it kind of got confusing. I had a real hard time distinguishing personalities. But if that's the worst thing I can say about the book is that two bit characters kind of reminded me of one another, that's not really a bad thing at all. Okay, so basically, since it is geared toward the younger side adult, I give this book full marks for emotional range, dealing with the topic of sexuality in a young adult book, and just the really sweet ending. Basically, I can't wait for the next book. This is Angie, and this is my book review for LK Gardner-Griffie's Nowhere Feels Like Home.